Hello. Hi, I am Jessica and welcome. This is Reasons to Hope. And I'm so glad that you're able to join this week. This week we honor our nation's veterans. And the second week of November, we pause and we stand in reverence to think about our veterans and to really give gratitude to our veterans. And this year I'm observing in a way that I never have before, by asking a question that I've never asked myself, that was asked by a goal that our guest today shared with me. And the question was, am I living a life worthy of the sacrifices made for my freedom? It really stopped me in my tracks. And I'm excited to talk with our guest today and the conversation we're gonna have today. Our guest, he is a veteran, an Army veteran, who just lives a life full of hope. And his name is Charlie Lemon. So Charles will be joining us here in just a moment. He's a retired specialist, a Tampa native, and an outdoorsman. He is a Purple Heart recipient and a Florida boy, and also a University of South Florida Bull. But he leads a very active life on the Gulf Coast and is constantly forging ahead with resilience and grit, and most of all, hope. So I'm excited to welcome Charlie and have him join us today. And we're going to have a really powerful conversation about celebrating and what it means to go through these difficult times. So give me just a second. And I see you on here, Charles. So let's get you on here. Do you see that button? There we go.
There we go.
Yay. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going really well. Hey, can I have you turn it vertical? Can you?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, perfect.
Let's see if this will sit right. It's obviously my first ever IG live, so.
It's always a little scary.
Okay.
But welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Finally connected in this way, and we can see each other.
Yeah.
So welcome, and I think, how about we start the conversation maybe towards the beginning? We start with, we'll kind of tell a little bit of your journey and a little bit of your story, but let's start at the beginning of what it was that gave you that call to join the Army and to start this path.
Well, it had always been in the back of my mind, honestly. Like, I have a lot of family members that were military. My grandfather and grandmother, they raised me a lot growing up. Like, my mom was, working a lot. My stepdad also helped and take care of us. So my grandparents raised me a lot. My grandfather was a Korean War veteran. And I used to hear the stories of him. I actually did a paper on him in my world geography class in high school. And so I got to hear all the stories, war stories, and just, just the good times and the bad. But with him, it was mostly good times from how he described it. And I always knew that was a potential thing that I could do. I could fall back on it if I wanted to join the military. I was patriotic growing up, patriotic family. My brother was military. A lot of uncles, aunts were military. So it was always in the back of my mind. Fortunately, getting out of high school, I got an academic scholarship to go to any university in the state of Florida. So I took that opportunity and went off to UCF. And I just found that wasn't really for me, I guess. So I don't know. I didn't do too well, lost my scholarship, and decided to move to Tampa with a friend from high school. And just, I don't know, I kind of lost my way in Tampa. I had a good time. Like, I definitely enjoyed my youth. And I just started realizing that I needed something more, needed to do something more and have better direction in my life. So I did exactly what like I said, I'd always seen in the back of my mind, that I could follow in the footsteps of my family and join the military and serve my country.
And so you found a way in enlisting. So you enlisted in 2009, and share with us a little bit of what that experience was like. I know you had orders for a 12-month deployment, and that was interrupted. So maybe you can share a little bit of what happened.
Sure. So I enlisted in 2009. Wasn't long after that we received orders to deploy to Iraq, Najaf, Iraq, to serve over there and just kind of take over for some guys that had been there for a year and they needed a break. So we went over there on a 12-month deployment. Unfortunately, 10 months into our deployment, we were on a routine mission. We were just escorting a team to the courthouse in the city. We were going to pull security for them. But maybe 10 minutes into our mission, I was on the lead truck. So I'm gunning on the lead truck. So I'm standing in the truck and my head's out the turret. So I'm scanning and looking for threats. But unfortunately, we missed this threat. And 10 minutes into our mission, our truck was hit by a roadside bomb. It was the biggest bomb that we had encountered some hits like throughout the 10-month deployment. But unfortunately, this was a big one. And I went from standing to sitting in the blink of an eye and looking around me. I was awake through all of it. I was conscious through all of it. But I went from standing to sitting and my legs detached from my body sitting in front of me. It's obviously that was a pretty traumatic situation, but we kept our calm. Our truck commander, who sits in the passenger seat, he was yelling for the driver to stop, because usually when you get hit by a bomb or when you get under attack, you want to kind of assess the situation. You got to see how the truck's doing, make sure we're still capable of continuing mission. So that's when I looked over, and that's when I saw my friend Matthew England was not alive. He the shrapnel that had taken my legs, actually it killed him on instantly. So the truck's still going 55 miles an hour down the road. It's still rolling down the road. We can't stop, and we eventually crashed. We jumped the curb and crashed into some buildings or something. I don't really remember the details, but that's how we came to a stop. And that's when I just remember hearing gunfire, and then the trucks that were behind us came up to pull security and get me on a litter and bandage me up as best we could. We called out a helicopter. We got me back to our base, where they continued to do, IVs, blood, give me more blood. I was losing a lot of blood, obviously. It's all a little hazy after that. I just remember getting on the helicopter and being taken to, I want to say it was Bagram, which is an Air Force base, or a base where they take us to Germany to get our treatment and save our lives. The lights went out. I woke up 6 days later in Washington, D.C., coming out of my coma. My mom and sister were there. My brother was there. I was just so thankful that I woke up and they were there.
And tell me a little bit about your recovery. How has the recovery changed maybe the perspectives of what you value, and maybe even what motivates you now?
Oh, it was huge. I've always been a positive person. In my opinion, I've always been a positive person, an outgoing person. But waking up that day and knowing that I survived and one of my best friends didn't survive, I was just thankful, so thankful. Like someone was watching over me for sure. I was thankful to have my family there with me, because who knows if I'd have woke up in a hospital and strained. I had no idea where I was. So when I woke up and my mom was there to tell me it was okay, that helped a lot. But from that day forward, once I focused on obviously getting better and surviving all the surgeries and all that and getting stronger. But the biggest thing is from that day forward, I just told myself that I was going to appreciate my second chance at life, really. And that's the fact that I survived, and not take for granted what I have, whether it's a little bit or a lot. I'm just thankful to have it and thankful to be here to share it with everyone. And honestly, I love to tell my story. I love to, just promote positivity and promote the love for life. And
you shared that your goal now is to live a life worthy of those sacrifices that are given every day for our freedoms. I will always hold that with me now, but I am curious to know what that means to you.
Well, it's just, like I said, I lost my best friend. He was 22 years old. We hear stories of military men, law enforcement, firefighters, people that give everything and sacrifice everything, not just their lives and limbs, but their family and family time. And just, you don't get those hours of your life back. And it's a sacrifice they're willing to give to keep the rest of us safe and let the rest of us live a life that's, without worries so much. And I just know that I appreciate that. I know I gave a sacrifice, but there's others that are giving so much more. And I just want to make sure that I'm living a life worthy of their sacrifices, and that they know that they're appreciated.
Man, you also shared when we were talking to you that when your recovery was coming to an end, that you had that transition to think about. You are in a wheelchair now, and the question was, how do you return to a new normal, or how do you find a new normal with independence? And so one of those things that happened was that an organization called Operation Finally Home and the Grammatica family, they partnered with some local businesses in the Tampa area, and they were able to build a home to adapt to your specific needs. Can you take us back to that day when you learned of the kindness you would receive, and maybe share with us how you're involved in the organization today?
Sure. Yeah, that was one of the greatest days of my life. They surprised me with it. They actually said that they were flying me to Tampa from Texas, because I was still finishing up rehab and everything. They flew me to Tampa, said that they were going to interview me for the potential to get a house built for me when I moved back to Tampa. And they actually surprised me with it that day. So I was speechless. My mom was there again. My mom and sister were there again. So obviously it was an important thing, and I'm so thankful that they were there to support me in that again. It's just, yeah, it's tough. Military life is a lot different from civilian life. I was on the end where I lived, in the civilian life before I joined the military. A lot of these guys, they join right out of high school. They're 18-year-old kids. They've never even had a job or anything. So for them to go into the military and then for that to be all they know, and then to come out and transition to the civilian world, it's very tough. For me, is it different because I already knew the real world, but I was doing the real world in a wheelchair now. So it's 18 months. It was 18 months of rehab there to learn how to use a wheelchair, how to cook meals in a wheelchair, how to drive with hand controls, all this. Just having this house and it being wheelchair accessible, and not having to go out and search and live in an apartment for however long before I found a place that would fit my needs was a blessing. And it's one of hundreds and hundreds of blessings I've had since I've got injured.
And how are you involved in helping them today?
Now I work with the Grammatica Family Foundation. I'm on their board. I help select veterans. We do an interview process. Unfortunately, there's not that many veterans coming back injured right now. It's a great thing. The war is over for now. We know it'll never, truly be over. But for now, we're helping veterans in the community in the Tampa area. We're helping them with housing initiatives, whether they're veterans that had issues with, fire or anything that's kind of done that. We help build their homes back to livable, and we do charity events, and I just kind of help with that and tell my story as often as possible and let everyone know how important it is to do this for our veterans.
And so let's go ahead and bring it to current day now. You are very active, an outdoorsman, truly, with a love of sports. And what does it feel like for you when you're in the great outdoors? And how has that maybe been a part of your healing?
Oh, it's been huge in my healing. I was big in the outdoors growing up. Being a Florida boy, like, the weather's perfect year round. We're close to the water, plenty of open air. It was my ability to get back to doing things that I felt normal doing, and these are things that are adaptable for anyone in a wheelchair, as long as you have the support, whether it be friends, families, or these organizations that are out there helping disabled veterans or disabled people in general. There's always a way to get around the adapting of these different sports. And like, I still scuba dive, I still hunt, I still fish, I still kayak, I surf. It's endless opportunity, and I'm just thankful that there's so many people out there to show you the way. And you just have to be willing to try. You have to be willing to get out there and try, and that's all. I mean, the human spirit is stronger than any physical limitation you can think of.
Endless opportunity. I love how you put that. So this year, it marked the 10-year anniversary of what you refer to as your Alive Day. And what does that day mean to you now?
It's the same as it's been since day one. I take the day. I mean, year round, I think about what happened. I think about my friend Matthew England. I keep a bracelet on all the time that has his name and the date. But it's a day to reflect. I celebrate it. I usually get friends together, friends that I've had since before I was injured, friends that stuck around through my injury and through my recovery. And we go out and we have a good time. We cheers to Matthew, and we cheers to being friends for all these years. And it's a good day of reflection. And it's crazy. It's been 10 years. It doesn't feel like it's been that long at all. But I say that every year, but honestly, it's true. It's been a great 10 years. I couldn't ask for a better time.
And Charlie, we ask the same question at the end of our broadcast every week, and we ask, what is giving you hope today?
Every day, my experiences with the people in the community. When I go out, whether I go to a restaurant or a sporting event, anything, there's so many people you see the good in the world. Like it stinks that it took me being in a wheelchair to see it, but there's so many good people out there. Like all you hear about is the bad stuff on the news, and it's just good to get out in the community and see the goodness in people, and just a simple people that say thank you, or people that'll pay a dinner tab and not even let me know, just kind of do it just because they want to. That gives me hope that the world is better than is portrayed in the news. That's for sure.
And I mean, I'm so glad that our paths have crossed, and what an absolute honor to have the opportunity to speak with you. And I wish there was a different word, like a separate word that had just a little bit more depth to it. But for now, it's the best I have. It's just, I want to thank you for your service.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're obviously doing good things with what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing as well. Putting a positive vibe on the community and in the world, hopefully. So thank you.
For that. And of course, I want to thank, any other men and women who are veterans of this country who happen to see this. And I just want to thank you for your service as well. And just the reverence and thinking about that. I live a very comfortable life. And that is by grace, and also by the protection from you, Charlie, and all of our other veterans who put themselves in harm's way, and sometimes, pay an ultimate price for that. So I pray that I never take that for granted.
Means a lot. Thank you so much. Happy Veterans Day, everyone.
Happy Veterans Day, everyone. And as always, we would love to hear from you. So if you want to pay your respects, if you have any comments, or if you have a veteran that you want to honor, please feel free to leave those in the comments. And also you could post using the hashtag Reasons to Hope. And we will be back next week on Monday at 3 o'clock Eastern. We'll see you then. Thank you, Charlie.